Hello, your friendly neighborhood host, JT Wheatley, here again, back for another episode of the History of Comics podcast, this time into the savage career of Erik Larsen. Of all the Image founders, Erik Larsen, the creator of Savage Dragon, has always been described as the purist. While Todd McFarlane wanted to build an empire and Rob Liefeld wanted to publish as many comic books as he wanted to, Larsen stated he went to Image because he wanted to draw funny books his own way. And with Savage Dragon, he did just that. Erik J. Larsen was born on December 8, 1962 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His family would later move to Northern California, where he grew up before moving again to Bellingham, Washington. Larsen was a high school dropout and comic book fan, growing up loving the art of Herb Trimpe, the famed 1970s Incredible Hulk artist, whose many notable works include drawing Wolverine's first appearance in Incredible Hulk number 180 to 181 on October-November of 1974, based on John Romita Sr.'s design, along with the works of Richard Matheson, the author of I Am Legend. His father was teaching self-reliance courses and actually encourages his sons to drop out of high school, though today Larsen doesn't pass on the same advice to his own kids. Originally, his dream was to be like Trimpe and just being an artist drawing other people's scripts, but when his schoolmates went to do that for him, he decided he would just write his own work. As a kid, he loved the Marvel character Nova, and later as a teen, he wrote and drew for his own strips in his fanzine Graphic Fantasy. Larsen proudly proclaims he's been a comic book artist since 19. He created the fanzine because Charlton Bullseye, one he did a tryout for, didn't exist anymore. It was in this fanzine where the Dragon first appeared, which Larsen admitted was a Batman ripoff who drove a car similar to the Mach 5 from Speed Racer, along with saying a magic word to activate his powers like Shazam, a classic mishmash if ever there was one. The original design even had Dragon wearing a green mask with a dragon fin on it, along with a cape. In addition, Dragon was a widower and a retired member of a government-sponsored superhero team. Erik Larsen self-taught himself as an artist, finally making his professional debut in Megaton No. 1 in 1983, where he co-created and illustrated the feature Vanguard with publisher Gary Carlson about an alien designed to guard Earth with only a sarcastic robot to keep him company. Vanguard laments guarding Earth as a boring task, though he quickly learns otherwise, while striking up a relationship with reporter Roxanne Wells. Another version of the Dragon would later make its professional debut in Megaton No. 2 in October of 1985, but it would just be a cameo. He still hadn't evolved much from the original Batman ripoff concept he created back in the 3rd or 4th grade, with the exception of his wife now being alive instead of dead. Plus, he was still just called the Dragon, and would make his first full appearance in Megaton No. 3 in February of 1986. While these comics are not official to the Savage Dragons and Vanguard's canon today, they remain collector's items for being one of the first appearances of original Image characters, and as a result, both Graphic Fantasy and Megaton received high-quality reprints years later. Gary Carlson, who ran the book with the intention of being bi-monthly, received Larsen's pages within 2 weeks, but said he had to wait for the rest of the creators to turn in their work. According to Larsen, Carlson waited so long he wished he had Larsen just draw the whole book. Of additional note, Carlson also returned to Larsen's original art, which was sadly lost in the fire years later. It would be a relationship that would last for years, and when Larsen went to Image, he brought Carlson with him. Later, Larsen inadvertently competed in the Marvel tryout. Larsen states he submitted a portfolio that was put into competition without his knowledge, only to lose to Mark Bagley. Honestly, not a bad place to be a runner-up, despite never trying out. By this time, Larsen had done an issue of Sentinels of Justice for AC Comics, formerly Paragon Publications and Americomics, and later DNA Agents for Eclipse Comics, about a team of genetically engineered superheroes tasked with protecting the company that created them. It was this independent work that got Larsen noticed by Marvel and DC. After years of working the independent circuit, Larsen was hired to work at Marvel by Jim Shooter, who submitted regular portfolios to usually replies of close but no cigar, but finally was being hired. At Marvel, he did work on 5 issues of The Punisher, giving a noted look of Frank Castle being scratched up, believing he would be considering he was just a human. He also made Frank Castle balding, as Larsen was doing the same at the time. He then did a Hulk vs. Thor story with Stan Lee with Vinnie Coletta inking. Larsen stated he originally hated Coletta, but ultimately learned a lot from him, stating if you could survive Vinnie, you could survive anyone. It would end up being the last Thor comic Stan Lee wrote and Coletta inked, pretty significant for a young Erik Larsen starting out. The work also landed Larsen a fill-in issue for Todd McFarlane on Amazing Spider-Man number 287. Getting more in demand, Larsen was hired by DC to be the penciler on Doom Patrol, his first ongoing series, and The Outsiders, as Mike Grell noticed his work and recommended him. However, Larsen's art on Doom Patrol would be negatively received at first, which he claimed was due in part to his art differing so much from the previous artist, Steve Liddell. Some other DC work Larsen did was Teen Titans, Secret Origins of Nightwing, and the Teen Titans Spotlight. Back at Marvel, Larsen did a half an issue of Strange Tales with Terry Austin doing the inks, along with a 5-part novel serial he wrote and drew, being a favorite since he was a kid. And he also left the Punisher to do so. However, as soon as he quit, Marvel informed Larsen that the novel was going to be used in New Warriors instead, and his story just didn't gel with the plans for that new book. He was given a serial on Excalibur instead, though. Larsen did further work on Amazing Spider-Man, helping with Part 5 of the assassination plot as Todd McFarlane was running late, along with working on Marvel Comics Presents. When Todd McFarlane left Amazing Spider-Man for his own Spider-Man book, he was the artist who took over, thanks to Larsen's fill-in work on Amazing Spider-Man 287, along with 324 and 327. He started his run with issue number 327. The job was daunting, following McFarlane's celebrated run, but he managed to continue the work of McFarlane as they both updated the look of the wall crawler for the first time in 25 years. Of note, Larsen also gave MJ her big hairstyle in keeping with the times of the late 80s, early 90s. With writer David Michelin, he did a string of classic stories from the Cosmic Spider-Man, Return of the Sinister Six, 334 to 339, and The Powerless Spider-Man in issues number 341 to 343. Larsen was especially acclaimed for his depiction of Venom, though he would later state he hated the character, saying the origin of Eddie Brock attaining his symbiote made him too unlikable. Erik Larsen would leave Amazing when issue number 350 to be succeeded by Mark Bagley, the artist who beat him with the Marvel tryout years ago, and Bagley would take over with issue number 351. However, Erik Larsen would then succeed Todd McFarlane again when he took over Spider-Man, where he wrote and drew the acclaimed 6-issue story The Revenge of the Sinister Six from issues number 18 to 23. However, Larsen's original childhood creation, Savage Dragon, was still in the back of his mind, and he would soon have an opportunity to bring him to the forefront. During that time, Larsen was still trying to get Nova off the ground, though Marvel now just wanted a miniseries, while also working with Keith Giffen on Lobo at DC. At the same time, he was working with Fabian Nicieza on an X-Factor pitch that would include a new take on the Crimson Commando. Originally created by Chris Claremont and Alan Davis in Uncanny X-Men number 217 in March of 1987, who Larsen later would make into Super Patriot. Ultimately, Nicieza would take Larsen's notes to make Nova series with artist Charles Marinin. All the while, Larsen was still working on Savage Dragon, which he would take to Image when he co-founded the company. Like all the other Image founders, he had a different motivation than the rest of the group, as he wanted to be his own artist as well as a writer. As Erik Larsen would put it, he wanted to make his funny books his own way. Also, unlike some of the other founders, Larsen had no problem still working for Marvel or the other companies, as he left on good terms and admiring many of the people who worked there. However, the creative restraints over working under someone else was getting to him, so Larsen was ready to set out on his own. Originally, the break started with Rob Liefeld and Jim Valentino, who wanted to bring the Executioners to Malibu under publisher Dave Olbrich, but Marvel complained it was too similar to the X-Force. Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee weren't a part of that original group yet, though Larsen does admit Image wouldn't have been as successful starting out if it didn't have big names like them. McFarlane in particular led the group, meeting with then Marvel President Terry Stewart and Editor-in-Chief Tom DeFalco in December of 1991, informing them that they were leaving and the reasons why. Larsen wasn't present, but McFarlane stated he was representing him as well, along with Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, and Jim Valentino, with Whilst Portacio joining with Jim Lee, though he wouldn't be a partner in Image. Malibu provided the initial publishing platform, with Image being a comic book company that protected creators' rights. One of the first rules of Image was the company only owned the name and the logo. Each creator came with their own ideas with the intention of creating a shared universe under Image. For Larsen's part, his longtime creation, Savage Dragon, would be his. Now known as the Savage Dragon instead of just a dragon, he was a large, finned, green-skinned, superpowered human who joins the Chicago police force. He has no memory of where he comes from, awakening from a fiery wreckage, or how he acquired his powers of super strength and advanced healing, which over the course of the series are revealed to include regrowing his lost limbs. He gets the name Dragon from nurse Annie Stevens, who attends to him, and would later become a key member in Mighty Man. Launching in July of 1992, Erik Larsen originally produced a miniseries detailing how Lieutenant Frank Darling of the Chicago PD recruited Savage Dragon to fight the Vicious Circle, an organized gang of super freaks run by the mysterious Overlord. Even from the start, Larsen showed he was no longer playing by the rules of Marvel and DC, as Darling would rig an explosion to coax Dragon into joining the CPD, while gaining a girlfriend only for her to be killed by a jealous ex-boyfriend, all ending with Dragon going into a deep depression. When Image launched, Erik Larsen's plan was always to Savage Dragon, though he planned to produce some other projects as well, such as Super Patriot. The last team moved on quickly, as he was afraid Fabian Nicieza would produce it at Marvel first, based on their original Crimson Commando concept. Of interesting note, the name Super Patriot was used twice before by Marvel. First for a villain who debuted in Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. number 13 in July of 1969, and then as the original name of U.S. Agent, first appearing in Captain America number 323 in November of 1986. Back to the Image character, Super Patriot would make his first appearance in Savage Dragon number 1 in July of 1992, telling the story of Johnny Armstrong, a World War II soldier captured by the Nazis and subjected to experiments to give him superpowers. He would become the hero Super Patriot, joining a team of allies while fighting alongside other heroes like Mighty Man and Supreme, before an accident turned him into a deadly cyborg, leading him to clash with Savage Dragon. He eventually regained his memory, joining the superhero team Freak Force, along with learning he was the father of twins, a boy and a girl who became the heroes Liberty and Justice. Larsen did this with the help of Dave Johnson, though many of the original art was lost in the house fire. This was all part of Erik Larsen's larger Dragon Bible from the beginning, so he knew where to take the series, along with crafting the origin, which was supposed to have been in the Image 10th Anniversary book. Like the rest of the Image founders, Larsen also developed his own studio, Highbrow Entertainment, to cover the various projects. 1 month before Savage Dragon came out, Erik Larsen got married, and with the second issue even being delayed because he went on his honeymoon. When Deathmate came out in 1993 and 1994, he refused to participate because, along with Todd McFarlane and Jim Valentino, noting that half the Image founders refusing to participate in the Valiant Image crossover, a large part of why the event was a failure. Erik Larsen refused because he stated he hated Valiant. That's not to say Larsen was opposed to company crossovers, as he did a Savage Dragon Megaton Man with Don Simpson, but that book was notoriously late by Larsen's own admission. One bright side was that he did bring Simpson's Megaton Men and the rest of the Bizarre Heroes to Image. Larsen also planned to get the Freak Force out in 1993, with Vic Bridges working on Keith Giffen's plots. Freak Force first appeared in Savage Dragon number 4 in September of 1992, about a body-hunting super team featuring 6 characters as Super Patriot and the Mighty Man, originally with the plan of making them police officers. However, when the superheroes had a problem following the Chicago PD's rules, they left. The original series would run with 1995 with a follow-up miniseries to continue the storyline. Another character from Erik Larsen's past he brought to Image was Vanguard, the alien protector of Earth he co-created with Megaton publisher Gary Carlson, who would receive 2 miniseries in a one-shot, while still remaining a character throughout the Image titles, making appearances in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 3 and Freak Force. In 1985, USA Network produced the Savage Dragon cartoon series, which lasted for 2 seasons and 26 episodes, as part of a larger push by USA to produce original cartoons for the network. As a result, Dragon would actually cross over with USA's other cartoon shows, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and Wing Commander Academy. Yeah, that's a stretch. The show lasted until 1996 and was negatively received, including by Larsen himself. In a nice coup for Image, Erik Larsen did manage to convince Kevin Eastman, the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to bring them to Image in July of 1996 with a miniseries Body Count, along with Volume 3 of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book series, which was notable for its violence. Leonardo lost a hand and Donatello was turned into a cyborg, for example. While initially successful, the series would be cancelled, and later Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic books didn't acknowledge the series in continuity under their own other creator, Peter Laird, though that the series is being reprinted by EDW to this day. After the speculation class in 1996, Image publishers were affected with many of their titles contracting, along with Larsen's Highbrow, as many of his titles outside of Savage Dragon were cancelled, though he has produced a few outside miniseries since then. Larsen also produced work outside of Image, having no problem still working with DC or Marvel, though he avoided the Heroes Reborn and previously mentioned Deathmate crossover.